Hey everyone, welcome back. Today is day 5 of our 30 days toward creating a family ministry plan for your church. My name's Tommy, and again, we're with Ron Hunter. And just before we get going, Tommy Sanders mentioned your book. He's at East Texas Baptist University, and he said this concise resource can begin credible and productive discussions and plans for families as well as for ministry leaders. And that's exactly why we're doing these 30 days. And so before we get going, can you just help our guests and anyone that's listening understand how this goes beyond just a specific passage in Deuteronomy 6? Like, what's the scriptural foundation for family ministry?
DNA of D6 is really founded upon that key passage in Deuteronomy chapter 6. And I would be remiss not to jump into that with some detail here. God is really talking to a nation, and he says, if you want to spiritually flourish, you've got to pass this along generation after generation. He says, you got to love me, you got to love my word, and if you truly do that, your kids will catch it. And he goes through how we can, from when we rise up in the morning till we, drive in the minivan to school. I mean, that's the implication. We come home, we sit down at the dinner table, we tuck our kids in bed. It's literally a lifestyle of involvement of discipleship with our kids. But it is not isolated just to Deuteronomy 6. We go back to Genesis chapter 1, we find that phrase, be fruitful and multiply. And if we only think that that is procreation, then we don't understand that when we get to the passage where God has the global flood and starts over with the population, it was very populated prior to the flood. He was talking about be fruitful and multiply my glory into the next generation. Yes, we're to have children and so forth, but it's to bring glory back and pass his presence along. And that happens over and over. We find the generational aspects. We find it in the Psalms. We find it in Proverbs, the instructions between moms and dads. We find it in the end of the Old Testament when he closes in Malachi that, hey, he wants to turn the hearts of the kids back towards the fathers and the fathers back to the kids. He opens it in Luke chapter 2 and sees exactly the same thing. He's going to turn it back. Paul talks about it in Ephesians chapter 4. We get into the Ephesians chapter 6, that building generational gladiators passage. It's just an incredible passage, putting on the whole armor of God, because he comes out of talking about moms and dads. But then Nehemiah chapter 4, building that wall, he steps down off that wall and he challenges people. I want you to fight for your sons. I want you to fight for your daughters. I want you to fight for your brothers and sisters. I want you to fight for your wives. And I want you to fight for your homes. So we need to study the scripture and see the generations after generations, the family ministry, so that we'll have some richness to share with our team, with our parents, and with each teachable moment we have in our church.
So if we're fighting for our family, then we want to study all of Scripture with a family-based lens. We want to see everything in Scripture through the family. So here at the end of day 5, we need to apply that immediately. How are you reading Scripture? Are you reading it just as something we do 1 hour a week? Are you reading it as a constant discipleship process that we're engaging in even in our home? So study Scripture through that lens, and you're going to be a better minister for it. Don't forget to join us at d6family.com/DNA so that you can engage in conversation there by taking the assessment. It's free. You can have all of these coaching sessions and all those to come sent directly to your inbox. Again, that's totally free, and you can even buy the book, The DNA of D6, right there on that website. So thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to see you again tomorrow.